grounds?
Well, we found we won the flight competition.
Right.
And,
This was when you were 18,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. What year was this?
50?
Okay. And what year is it now? It's new tape, so.
2003.
Okay. December 7th, right?
Right.
All right.
Now, okay, so to talk a little bit more about the Air Force, we went went to a disbursement place, and we more or less picked straws to find out who was going to go where. Well, I was lucky enough to draw the Korean War. Well, some of the poor guys got to go over to Germany and stay at hotels and motels. So, sure enough, I come home on leave, was home for 2 weeks. By the way, my enlistment was for 4 years. After 2 weeks leave, I went to California on the train. They didn't even fly me.
Even in the Air Force, they didn't fly.
Right. So we got to San Francisco at the displacement center for everybody going to, well, Japan and Korea and wherever. And it was funny, I met a fellow one day, he was in the Air Force too, and we come really fast friends over a couple hours. And he said, "Hey, are you doing anything over the weekend?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, my mother's going to come here, and she says, if it's okay with you, we're going to claim you're my cousin, and we're going to take you to our house over the weekend. We can have a little party." And well, I said, "That'd be great." This could have been anything, but it was true. All they were is nice people.
Mm-hmm.
His mother come in, and she ran up to me and hugged me, and she said, "Cousin so-and-so." And on the way through the gate, they gave me a pass for the weekend, which I wasn't even going to get. But they said, "Here you go, be back Monday morning." So we went to a town called San Jose, about 30-40 miles from San Francisco. And we pulled in, and I said, "Well, gee, this looks like a nursery," or no, he says, "This is I forgot the name of the farm, but they sell all their produce to us in Michigan and wherever." And come to find out, these people were multimillionaires. They lived in a one-story home that looked like it was 2 blocks long. And in the middle of it, they had a great big swimming pool, and it was really beautiful. We stayed there that Friday. Next morning, he says, "Come on, I'm going to take you into Frisco." We go out to the garage, and there's about 4 cars there, all new ones. And here we get into I think it was a 48 Ford convertible. And we drive to San Francisco. I never won the lottery, but I really lucked out that time. So he took me to Fisherman's Wharf, where I had lobster for the first time. Didn't know how to eat it, and I don't remember even having a beer or a drink. It was just a great time. He walked me out on the pier and said, this is why they call it Fisherman's Wharf and all that stuff. And I stayed the weekend with him and his mother and dad. and they took me back to the base that Monday morning. And it was a couple days. That's the last time I ever seen the guy. It was just like magic. Anyway,
Did you remember his name?
I don't even remember his name. And he had got transferred right out that morning, and was by, and that's it. I think he went to Europe. No, he didn't go to Europe. He couldn't, not being in California. I don't know where he went. Anyway, the next day or so I stayed at the base, and they shipped me out to, on the way to Korea, and it was on the USS Sultan. Can you imagine? I remembered that. And I haven't looked this up. Anyway, it was a big transport ship, and there was only about 100 of us Air Force, and there was about 2,000 Army personnel. And where they put us, the only place they had to put us is in the very bow of the ship. And at the very bow of the ship, that's where they put the prisoners. That's the jail. I forget what they call it. It's a jail. Anyway, of course they left the door open and everything, had bunks for us, but that's where we were. And if you think about it, the bow is the worst place on a ship, because what goes up and what goes down, that's all we were going. 20 feet up and 20 feet down. 20 feet up and 20 feet down. Anybody getting sick? Well, we ran into some rough seas. And the soldiers, now I'm not going to knock the Army or anything, but they were all draftees. And most of them were not in any physical condition whatsoever. And when you walk through their compartment to get to ours, they were just, the smell of throw up and just terrible. Anyway, so a lot of the time we spent on the deck, you know, going up and down, up and down. And if we weren't watching movies or something or drilling, one of the guys was talking to me. I was saying, boy, you know, I'm hungry. This chow isn't the greatest. He said, why don't you do what I'm doing? I said, what? He says, I'm working in the officer's mess. I said, no, KP. I'm going to volunteer for KP. He says, you betcha. He said, you go up there, and while these guys are eating stew, you're eating steak, prime rib,
Oh my.
all the good stuff. I said, oh, come on. He said, yeah. He said, you go up there, and there's only about 100 officers, so it doesn't take that long to feed them, scrub up, and we're out of there in 2.5, 3 hours. We've got the rest of the day ourselves, and we're eating like kings. He says, okay, I'll give it a shot. So we went up there, and you remember, son, I always told you, go in as an officer, not as enlisted. All the difference in the world. I mean, they're eating grilled steaks, and these guys down here are almost eating sea rations. So, pork chops, all the best cuts. And barbecue chicken, never had that in my life, I don't think. And the other trick was, keep your stomach full. You'll never get sick. Eat all the time. If you feel squeamish, then start eating. And it's true. That's all I did, and I'd go up in the bow of the ship, lay on the deck, and go up and down. And I'm eating stuff, and I'm fine. All these other guys are going, whoa. Anyway, I had to throw that part in. So first we went to, we're going to stop we stopped at Hawaii. And, I got to tell you this little story I remembered. Anyway, we went out and we hit a couple of the bars, and we'll look over. Oh, who in the world is that? There were two movie stars, and I can't remember their names, but one was a blonde. They were in this real nice bar. We were actually not supposed to be there. This was for the elite. Anyway, I saw the two movie stars, and that was Hawaii. It was at that time, and that's what, 60 years ago. It was so commercialized you wouldn't even like it. Anyway, we pulled out of there the next morning, and I got to say this now. Instead of the 10, 12 days, it took us 21 days to get to. We stopped at Guam going, Okinawa, all the way to Japan. From Japan they wouldn't let us out off the ship. They had to get going back the other way. And we said, what in the world's going on? You know, either we're going to go Korea or what? Well, come find out, we need you on an island. Oh, okay. You know, so we stopped at a couple. It wasn't a Wake Island; it was Saipan, I think. And then we come back to Guam, and it said, "Okay, we're taking 4 guys from the Air Force, and we need you in 79th Air Rescue, and you're going to be working on the planes and doing your stuff." And
How did they pick the 4 guys?
you, and you. We are all qualified the same. Mechanics of some kind. So, because what it was rotation time. We had to go in and replace the guys that were going home. In fact, I can remember going and taking over in this one barracks. This guy was packing and I'm unpacking. I got the blues on, the blue suit, and he's got the Army, the U.S. Army Corps.
Oh, Air Corps uniform.
Right. So I didn't really realize at that time, but we were the first ones to wear the blues. And he said, am I glad to see you. That means I'm going home. I thought, don't sound too good to me.
Now, was the Korean War going on at this time?
Oh, yes.
How long had it been going on?
Well, it started at the end of 50, it started at the beginning of 50 and went to 55.
And this was, what year was
and
this?
And this was the end of 1950.
Okay. All right, so
it was just
started.
getting into swing.
Yeah.
And I know I'm losing track a little, but some of the buddies that were in the Air Force, they ended up in radar sites in Korea, being attacked by the Chinese and all this.
So that could have been
and
you.
It could have been, I could be dead.
Yeah.
So when they picked those 4 guys, I was dumb. I didn't know. But I was replacing guys and that were on Guam. They were making flights from Guam, 79th Air Rescue, to protect the waters around Korea, down aircraft, down boats, whatever. And that's what I did. I was gunner, crew member, mechanic, jack of all trades. Didn't know what was going on, but I lucked out.
So, you're unpacking here. What was it like to get settled in? I mean, you've been living in Detroit for your whole life, and all of a sudden now you're living on an island.
Yeah, well, I thought I was in paradise for the first while. The temperature was a steady 78 to 80. hardly varying, except the humidity was super high. So when I moved in, it was in a Quonset hut, and it was one of these, you know, all metal,
Yeah.
and the roof come down almost to the ground with a opening like that with screen.
Okay.
And it come down so far because, come find out, we got the monsoons. And when the monsoons came, that meant rain going horizontal too. It rained so hard.
Would you cover the screens then or something?
Yeah, you could drop a little thing down. But, so there I was on Guam. On Guam at that time, there were no snakes at all, not one. But they had 4 and 5 foot lizards. I forget the name of them. But they, when we went through the jungle, we would kick them up, but they would run the other way. They were scared of us. We were scared of them.
It was a good relationship, eh?
We didn't want to meet. And let's see, I'm trying to hurry this up.
No, why? No.
Well, the camera.
No, why? I just put a fresh tape in there.
Okay, it went on like that. Not flying missions all the time, but keeping the planes, fixing that bomber up there, B-29, and talking to the crew members that flew every day. And the squadron next to us was these, I forget what squadron, but it was the weather squadron. And I become real good friends with this guy. And he was a radio operator. And one day their plane didn't come back. And come find out they didn't get shot down. They flew into a hurricane. And they mistaken an eye for not an eye, and it tore the thing apart. And he never come home. And okay, through that time, I spent a couple of Christmases there. That was the saddest part of my life. I really got homesick. So I volunteered to, I said, well, can't we have some lights or something? And he said, one of the officers said, well, that's a good idea. But seeing you brought it up, why don't you do it? Okay, I will. So I went, he gave me a slip, went over to supply, and got about 1,000 light bulbs.
Uh-huh.
A couple cans of paint,
Uh-huh.
and about, I don't know, 100 yards of wire in different strands. And instead of putting, I did all this, by the way, it was my idea. Instead of having receptacles, which they didn't have,
Yeah.
was I sat a couple guys down with soldering irons, and they soldered the light bulbs permanently. You know.
You didn't invent Christmas lights or anything like that, did you?
One every 4 feet,
Uh-huh.
and then we painted them,
Okay.
and then we strung them up. You know, it come out beautiful.
Did it?
We had more guys saying, "Come on, you got to make us a set," and we had them. The Quonset huts were laid out in a row like this. We had them throughout the whole place. It really looked nice.
Cheer
And,
everybody up.
yeah, no, it made them all cry.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, we had a palm tree for a Christmas tree, and we'd go down to the beach some days. The beach on Guam at that time made Hawaii look like a trash dump.
Really?
Beautiful. And the whole thing of it is you could walk out on this sandy reef. I don't know why it was sandy now, come to think of it, but it was coral. And it would be only up to your knees. But you take one more step and there was a cavern down there.
Okay.
And you could swim down there for 15, 20 feet. Well, me and this guy, we got some snorkel things, and they didn't work very good, but we spent our time going down in these caverns, you know. And one day, I've told Ma about it, but I ran into a sand shark.
Uh-huh.
I didn't run into him. He looked at me, I looked at him, and we split. But he had to be 4.5 feet long, maybe, something like that.
Oh, that's pretty
It
big.
scared the heck out of me.
Yeah.
And then that same beach, we would have some Christmas parties, you know, where, come to find out, when the Army left, they left Ballantine ale buried in the sand.
What's that?
It's beer,
Oh,
only it's called Ballantine ale.
okay.
Some of the most terrible stuff you want to drink. We'd have a squadron party down there, and they'd dig up these cases of it.
Oh.
Cases and cases. Why the Army didn't take it, I don't know. And of course we had our big cookout and all that stuff. That was the good part. And then one day, the the same general, in fact, Mays, was coming over for an inspection. I probably am wrong on this, but anyway, a high general was coming to the bay in Guam. Agana is the capital, and the bay was right there, and all the ships come in there too. Well, they wanted to throw a rescue thing for the general. Well, don't forget, I'm working on the lifeboats, on the bombers. The lifeboats are 30 feet long with a self-contained engine, rations for 10 to 12 people, a canopy that goes up over it in rough seas, and they drop this to the guys that got sunk or in the water. Well, I don't know how I got involved, but me and two other guys were kind of chosen. Oh, I know why. Because I was probably the most experienced on starting the boat up and knowing where all the gear is and all this. So the plan is to go out on a PT boat, put some rafts over the side, go out and play like we're want to be saved. B-29s come over and drop some boats to us. The only thing they didn't tell me is when we got on the PT boat, and that was neat, you know, really fast and everything, and we get out there.
Describe PT boat first, just a quick second.
Yeah, it's a fast naval gunboat.
Okay.
It's about 50 to 60 feet long. It has four diesels in it, capable at that time of 60 miles an hour, so it was fast. Anyway, is that what you wanted to
Yep.
know? And it's got machine guns and torpedoes all over it. And we go out there and said, okay, this is about the spot. They're checking, and we can see, you know, the island and all that. And we're sitting there and what's happening here? Jaws is swimming all around the boat. Sharks! Hey, hey, hey!
He didn't want to go in there because there were sharks all
He
over.
says, they won't bother you. In fact, here's what we're going to do. We're going to dump, get somebody out here with a carbine and start shooting. And that'll get them away.
Yeah, not even at them.
Huh?
They were shooting at the...
No.
No, they were shooting up in the
Because
air.
then you'd have blood all over.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
that's it, you'd have
and more of them.
You'd have a mess. Anyway, we get in the lifeboats. Not lifeboats, life rafts. They were big, I gotta say that. They were probably made for 6, 8 people.
Oh.
Big, thank God, because these things are still going around us. So, okay, boy, if we get through this. Anyway, here come 2 B-29s. And sure enough, they fly over us. I can't remember details, but they fly over us, and one of them dropped one of the boats, and they didn't want to make it too extravagant. These things at that time ran $80,000. And that time it was probably like a million or so now. Anyway, they dropped it. It come down in one big chute. It's one of them I packed. So the chute opened, and it come down, went in the water, and then come back out. Picture perfect.
Okay.
And we rowed over to it. PT boat had been long gone.
Yeah.
Well, he was standing to make sure we were okay, but he was edging his way to shore. And I go over, and there's a rope all the way around the boat. It's like this, and you go in and you pull down, and a door will flop open.
Okay.
On this side or the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And you jump in, and I jumped in because them guys were still out there. And what you had, you open the hatch, and here's a nifty 4-cylinder engine.
Mm-hmm.
And on the side, your controls, steering wheel, and all the compartments. And before I got in the boat, I took the housing off the propeller,
Mm-hmm.
so it didn't get damaged and coming down.
Right.
So you flip the thing, and we lost that one. But anyway, we got that out, got in it, and they wanted a full type thing, what it's going to look like. Okay, here's what happens. Talking to the camera. Anyway, you got your lifeboat,
Okay.
and you take like the tents nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
and you put these metal bows in like this throughout the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
There's about 8 of them. Then this canopy rolls up and over, and it's all rubberized. And then you can take it and zipper it, and you're completely enclosed. In other words, the waves could be coming right over you, and it wouldn't get you wet.
So this is the type of raft they set down if you were,
This is the
Okay.
A3 lifeboat.
yeah.
This is the ones I maintain.
Now, is that actually a raft or an actual boat? Is
No,
that-
it's made out of aluminum.
Oh, it is.
Heavy duty. It's 30 feet long.
Boy, if that thing was flying at you from B-29, I'd want to make sure they weren't getting too close to me.
Right. So you could be completely encaged in it
Uh-huh.
and zipper it up, and the boat could roll over and you won't get wet.
Right.
So anyway, we had that all up. Of course, we lowered it, but so they could see how it worked. Then we started in. Anyway, we start going in. Everything's going fine. Hear the general, you could hear the band and all that stuff for a while. Then they quit. Then they got serious because here we just got rescued and we're coming in. And part of our squadron was helicopters too.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Sikorsky. You remember the first ones with
Well,
the bubble on them?
Mhm.
One of the first,
like MASH.
huh?
Like
Like MASH. Exactly like MASH.
Yeah.
And I knew the pilot. We were talking terms. He was from Dearborn, Michigan. And he was a second lieutenant. And he was a mailman. Well, he was a reservist. But he was over pulling a hitch because the war broke out. Okay, I'm getting close into shore, and they come over, and for an extra, he was supposed to come over, 79th Air Rescue, da-da-da, da-da, and he was supposed to land on the beach. Well, he gets over the water close to us. For some reason, his copter lost the pad, the cushion, because that's what it is. You know, it keeps him up there. It's a pressure between the water and the props, and he lost it. He went in the water.
Oh boy.
Went in the water about 50 feet from us. And anyway, we pulled up, we were rescued, and he was in deep shit. And that was that part. Now, the only thing I have to add to that little excursion is they made him pay for the plane, or part of it. But on the other hand, they made him a major on paper. He wasn't getting paid for it because the extra money went to pay for the plane.
Oh, I see.
Can you believe how they red tape?
Yeah.
Wasn't his fault, really. Well, I've got one more story to tell you, and then we'll... Okay, it's... I'm going to the end, probably 3/4 through the tour, and all of a sudden they say, okay, you guys need a little relaxation and stuff. We're going to fly you to Japan. C-47. No problem. Reliable man. Guess who the pilot is?
Who?
The mailman. The guy
Oh,
that dumped
jeez.
the helicopter. We thought, are you sure? But,
Did you say a little prayer?
so we all get in there. I had to be about 14 of us. And we're going to go to Japan. And we get up and we're going, we get... Well, we were in there a long time. And then we're not, no chairs, we've got benches. And we're sitting, we're leaning against our parachutes. Everything's fine, you know, we're looking out the windows and we keep getting lower and lower. You know, it sounds like I'm making this stuff up. I am not. This is the truth. We're going along and it keeps dropping and dropping, and then the light goes on.
What light?
Well, when you to bail out, a green light comes on over the pilot's door.
Uh-huh.
There's a red one and a green one.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at one another, what's going on? And the engine is really slowing down. Co-pilot comes back and he says, looks like we may have to get out of here. What's going on? He says, one of the engines is running out of gas. Holy smoke. And we're getting down and down, and I swear we could see the splash of the waves. Probably my imagination and an old man's memory, but we got down there, and then boom, all of a sudden it picked up speed, and we're starting to get out of there, and after we're back up, we got down pretty low, pretty scary, because we were all lined up at the door, ready to go. You think you don't want to go, but you don't want to go down with that plane either.
What kind of angle were you going down at?
Well, it's hard to tell now, so, you know.
I mean,
No, we were just coming down like this, you know. Actually, I think we were too low to bail out at that point, when I think back on it. Anyway, the co-pilot says, okay, everything's fine. What's wrong? Well, he forgot to turn the reserve tank on. Oh, jeez. Let me out of here. Because for myself, I had already seen him dump one plane. These other guys didn't see that. Anyway, we got to Japan, partied.
So, what kind of missions? I mean, how often were you flying missions when you were in the Air Force?
Whenever something really come up, it was a case where basically we're mechanics, but if we're needed, you're going to go, you know, this type of thing. No scheduled thing too much. unless somebody got sick. Then we'd go and mostly get close to Japan, and the Bay of Korea is right in there. And once or twice we dropped boats to sinking ships. I don't know if we ever serviced a plane. I think we did. But when you're up in that, you don't know what's going on.
Right.
Because you're only a gunner, and all the talk is from the pilot to
Right.
where they're trying to go, and so you really don't know what's happening till you get back. And let's see if I got another story for you. Oh, this. Anyway, this is at the end of my tour, and B-29 had gone over to Nagasaki. Oh, by the way, when I was in Japan, I saw the Zero factory, one of them anyway, and the Mitsubishi engine, and they had one sitting right on the front lawn and the whole bit. And I did go on the subway a lot, the trains here and there, and you could tell Americans because we were waving over the heads of the Japanese, well, the taller ones, you know. So it's one group went over R&R, and they took a B-29 with them. What they did, they come back, and they had 4 women with them. They had all got drunked up and brought these prostitutes back. And what happens is they all get court-martialed. They took it a lot more serious than these guys thought they were. They broke every one of them down. The officers lost their commissions. The enlisted men were all privates. Well, that was the dumbest thing to do. Oh. I just tell them, B-29 going R&R to Japan, they brought 4 women back with them. I did tell you that one time.
Yeah, you told me about that.
And anyway, that was my tour pretty well, except for the I joined land rescue because, believe it or not, things were boring sometimes, and they never shoot a war on schedule. So I joined the ground rescue. And come to find out, what are they doing? Oh, they're going after the Japanese that are still here that we didn't even know about anyway. So where are they at? Were they at the other side of the island? And okay, we all get in a Dodge Power Wagon, weapons carrier. And they load us up with guns and all that good stuff. And we go over, and this is not the only trip, but I'm trying to generalize it for you. We go up, and there are a couple mountains on Guam, and you go down the other side, and here we come upon the most beautiful sight you want to see. It's a bay, and the houses on the beach were all clay white in Spanish decor, and they had been sitting there for 100 of years, just beautiful. And they had a stream coming through the town, and all sandy, and they had churches that were all done in white clay, and I just thought I'd throw that in. Just beautiful. So we went over, and on this one side of the mountain, on the water side, the Japanese had dug in caves, and they were living in there. To myself, I don't think there was that many left, but they found out they were committing cannibalism on the Guamanians, and they wanted us to get rid of them. Well, I don't really know if we ever really got rid of them. We threw some grenades in the caves and try to tell the people, yeah, we're doing something. But that was the land rescue type of thing. We went out
Did you ever find any of them?
quite a few times. They had one surrender, but we never saw him. But he surrendered to the town people that almost killed him. But there is a little punch to that story. After being married to your mother and all these years, it was almost 50 years. I heard that one of the Japanese finally surrendered on Guam, and he would not really surrender. So a delegation of his Japanese people come over, told him it's honorable to surrender. Come on home. After 50 years, he went home as a hero.
So he lived in a cave for 50 years?
Yep.
So a lot of these guys were there from World War II and didn't know the war was over.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, yeah. I should have filled that in. Don't forget, I was over there only, 6 years after the war, and 6 years is not much.
Right, well, might be if you're living in a cave.
Oh, well, I felt sorry, but here they got so desperate they were
Yeah.
shooting the Guamanians and stuff. And Guamanians weren't no slouches, though. They had long machetes,
Yeah.
and most of them were from Truck or Rhoda. That was an island you could see from Guam, and they told us, don't ever go over there. That's off limits completely. I said, why? He said, they're still head hunters. Oh, he says, nope. And don't fool with their women or you're dead. Well, we never did anything like that anyway. But I'm just telling you that a couple nights we went into the mountain area and the Guamanians were moonlighting. This is United States territory. And I guess they were under our laws. And they were moonlighting. And when we went in there kind of partying, they didn't like us being there. And they brought out their machetes and said, get out. You betcha. And we'd had stuff to drink, so we didn't want to fight with them. But they were brewing white lightning there.
Oh, okay.
And we were the revenuers.
Yeah.
So
Not for long.
Yeah.
yeah, they knew how to handle themselves. And let's see. The last part is I did some machine gunning at the end of the runway, where they train you on the 50 calibers and this type of thing, and you're shooting out over the ocean. And just to make an interesting thing, at the spot where I was shooting is one of the deepest parts in the ocean. It was 6.5 miles deep if you jumped off the end.
Wow.
I could never believe it. 6.5 miles deep.
Mariana's Trench?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, well, if you were learning the 50 caliber then, what did you use on the B-29?
50s?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
Don't forget, I hadn't had any training.
Oh, you were just doing it.
No, when we got chosen to be there,
Yeah.
we actually had no training on 50 calibers.
Right.
The only thing I shot good was the carbine.
Right.
And so they made us go take training on the target range, and I blew way more trees. No, there was hardly any left.
Yeah.
That's a shame, though, to send a man over there to fight and not have any training.
Well, they didn't know where I was going to be. In other words, how can you train a man for everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. And I guess that's about it. Other than some other stuff, but you can't go through all that. But I think I gave you a pretty good.
Got lots of tape if there's anything else you want to talk about.
Well, I come home, married mom, and that was it.
Okay. End of story, eh?
I come back to the States, and I had a choice. I wanted to go home really bad, and there was an opening at Kinross Air Base in Upper Michigan, and I said, yeah, I didn't want to go there. So I did, and come to find out, I come back in the summertime, and I was wearing a sweater the whole time because I wasn't used to the weather.
Yeah.
And here I chose to go up to Little Alaska, where it used to get close to 50 below.
Oh boy.
And come to find out, all the veterans, the place was full of veterans, mostly combat guys. They come back there, and we got brought in on Kinross one day. Said, look, you guys are going to have to straighten up. There's too much partying. Said, do you realize we have the worst record in the Air Force for guys getting into trouble, accidents, too much drinking, all this? That was all at Kinross.
Is that right?
Yeah. But then you look at some of the guys, they were shot at, and they were shaky, and what they needed to do was some rehabilitation and stuff. Anyway, we were there with a fighter squadron to protect the locks and Mama.
And Mom.
Yeah,
And Mama.
See, I knew a good thing.
And anyway, you want me to go any further?
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you what. Why don't we give you a quick break here?
Just one thought. We'll go back to Guam a second. When after I'd been there for a while, one morning it was raining like mad, and one of the SEALs come through. Says, okay, you guys, rainy day schedule. We sat up, rainy day schedule. I said, what do we do? Another guy says, go back to sleep. That means no work, no nothing. I said, what? He said, yeah, the planes are grounded, everything. He says, we're starting the monsoon, and that lasts for about 6 weeks.
Wow.
And it rained every day, almost 24 hours a day.
Wow.
And the Quonset huts were built on coral, and if it hadn't been, we'd be drowning.
Really?
Oh, and I forgot to tell you, the monsoons, yeah, and the rainy day schedule, and I saw Bob Hope and his troop, and we'd go down to the show when we could. The show was one big screen, no roof, no doors, no windows. It was an open pavilion with bench seats. And you go down with a cushion if you had one, and your poncho. And if it rained, they still played.
Oh, did they?
So many night we sat in the rain watching movies.
Any particular movies you remember watching at that time?
No, not really.
No.
No.
So
I did see Bob Hope, and he had a good show and all that stuff.
So monsoon season, did you see any solid hurricanes come over?
Gee, I forgot about that too, didn't I? I went through 3 hurricanes. The worst one was when they alerted us to get to the hurricane shelters. Hurricane shelter was a poured concrete building. Can you imagine? Well, you know the way they pour expressways and everything. This was a building, not cinder block, but poured concrete. The windows were made of quarter-inch steel shutters. And my first one, that was the worst one, I think. On the way there, I seen hoods blown off cars. This type of thing. And you're walking on an angle like this. And it's something like 80-mile-an-hour winds, you know, to start with. I don't know what they ended up. And we got in there, and they showed us sleeping quarters. Well, just a wide open place with bunks. And you could hear those big shutters go, just roar. And we were all glad we were in there. And that lasted probably 6-8 hours, and then it was gone. Go back to the Quonset hut, and there's our beds floating around and things like that. And because the stuff got blown off, you know, and our bedding got in the water. And then we had hot lockers to keep our clothes in. A hot locker is a plywood box about so big by so big. You keep all your clothes in there. What it has is a 100-watt bulb in there. 100-watt bulb keeps the humidity out. The humidity, if you left your shoes out, I wouldn't say overnight, but I'd say 2 days, they were turning green.
Oh, wow.
And if the fungus was a bad thing, you start getting under your arms, all your hot spots, you know, between your legs, and it's just started getting redder and redder and itch. And they come up with some medicine for us. And everything was in green. It was a green tube. And you put this on, and they tell you, hold your breath. Burn? Oh my God. It just burned like mad. But that's the only way you got rid of the fungus. If you didn't get rid of it, you were going to be sick.
Didn't they send some men home because they
If you got fungus in your ears, you got shipped out immediately because it would creep into your wherever.
Right.
I guess that about covers that part where I wanted to.
Were you in any action or anything like that?
Action, not ground action.
Right.
Not. Oh, one time we got chased by a couple of. They say MiGs, but I don't know if they were or not. We got shot at some, but not that much. Because we were rescue, and most good guys would honor a rescue, like the Red Cross.
Right.
Not all of them, though. That was about it. Till I couldn't wait to get home. And to this day, I still have nightmares about going back to Guam.
Why?
Being away from home and everybody. I do. I really have, oh God, I'm back here again. I really do. After all those years. So I come back and we landed in Frisco again. And I forget the boat I come back on. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, going over there, we passed the equator thing, King Neptune, and I already had a brush cut so they couldn't shave me, but they shaved everybody else.
Oh, okay.
It was initiation thing.
Oh, for passing the equator?
Yeah. So, I just thought of that. That was on the way going over there. Coming back, I had my diploma, so I didn't have to worry. they gave everybody a written thing.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I still have it somewhere.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it says King Neptune, you pass the equator and all this stuff. I'll dig it out one day. It's in our books. And we got back to Frisco, and we were all so excited to get home. Well, here's the thing of it. When we got over there, it was supposed to be for 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
The next day they told us, well, your tour has just been extended to 2 years.
Wow.
And, oh my God, whoa. But it's better that I was where I was than any place else,
Yeah.
except Europe maybe. And again, we got back to Frisco. I got on a jet plane and headed home, and I met the prettiest gal. She's really cute. Almost cute as your mom. She struck up a conversation, and it was friendly and all that. Well, when we landed, she wanted to know, well, where you going to be, and why don't you call me? And I was so excited, I just walked away from her.
To be back in.
And there's Mom and Dad waving, and I was kind of rude to her, I guess, but I just had to get home. And that had been the first time in 2 years I'd had a tomato or anything like that,
Wow.
because the stuff we got was from, well, we didn't have any really, but when we went to Japan they told us not to eat any of their fruit, vegetables, anything, but the meat would be all right, but that's it.
Why?
Human manure.
Really?
Yep.
In the vegetables and all that?
Yep. Well, it was grown in human.
They use that for fertilizer.
And
Jason,
they
for all
weren't
the
so-
vegetables.
This was right after the war. We didn't know much about Japanese, And when we found out they were growing it in that, they thought, whoa. But their tomatoes were like this. Everything was king size. They looked great.
Except the people.
No, the tomatoes.
Yeah.
The people were.
They
Boy,
should have
every
had them
once in a
stand
while-
in it overnight.
Every once in a while you ran into a big one. And when they come big, they come big.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm talking 6'4", maybe 300 and some.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we said. We didn't know they were. But come to find out, the Emperor's Marines,
Uh-huh.
they called, you had to be over 6'1".
Oh, okay.
And the guys that fought those Japanese Marines said these guys were like little Abners, huge.
What's a little Abner?
Well, they were like Supermen.
Okay.
When something broke down, they carried it. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. What else about that part? Gee, I got off my train. Anyway, okay, got back, met Mom and Dad. They had a garden at that time of year, and I sat in the garden and ate tomatoes with my salt shakers. That was really good. And then Dad not having much money, I remember him going out and buying steak, and the biggest part was, he said, "Come on, Connie." I said, "What?" "Come on." We walked over to Illinois, which was a business street about 2 blocks away, and there was a bar there called the Savoy, and he took me over. Jeez. And bought me a couple beers. boy. Just to welcome me home. He never did that. So, wow. Anyway, I stayed there and at their home, and it got transferred up to Kinross. And in the meantime, my buddy from Guam come over and stayed at Mom and Dad's house for a little bit when I was on leave. And his brother was a jockey, and he rode at the Detroit race course, and that was just something that happened. Then went up and got to the base, and guess where I ended up at Kinross?
Where?
Right back in the clink.
In the clink?
I reported to the APs, Air Police, because there was nobody else around.
Uh-huh.
Come find out, they were just building this base. I was first.
Okay.
Everywhere I went, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Air Police said, well, the barracks aren't ready yet, so you're going to have to stay in the cell. I said, you're going to leave the door open? He said, hell no. But they did, you know.
Yeah.
Just screwing around. And I stayed in there. It was only for maybe 2 weeks. Then finally got into town, and in the meantime, I had bought a 50 Ford to take up to Kinross. And I had left my old car with Uncle Mel. He was supposed to pay me for it when I come back after 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, he decided, you know Uncle Mel, the horse trader?
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't tell this to the kids, but it was nothing real bad. He was a horse trader. He had my dad rebuild the engine, then he wanted to give it back to me. So I said, no. First place, that engine is not an engine that'll start in 50-degree weather.
Yeah.
That's why I went for the Ford,
Right.
because it's famous for starting good at that time. Anyway, went up to Kinross, and all the guys were veterans. There was no boots there whatsoever.
What's a boot?
Well, you've heard of boot camp.
Oh, I see.
A boot is a beginner, and all these guys been in the service for at least 4 years.
Yeah.
All veterans. Went over and they put me in the motor pool. But I was right at home. I was driving ducks and quacks and
What's a duck and a quack?
amphibious tanks, more or less.
Okay.
Open at the top.
Uh-huh.
A quack is a little one.
Okay.
A duck is a big one. That's where they got it from.
Okay.
And some of them were really big.
What's really big?
Probably 32 feet long, something like that. Twice the size of a car, length, and about 3 times the height. Good size. Able to go in water and land and whatever. And I gotta have a drink. Then I went into town and struck up with friends and such, and
What town would this be?
Sault Ste. Marie.
Oh, okay.
Michigan.
That was the closest town.
Yeah. And some of the guys lived off base. They lived in town
Okay.
with their family.
Oh, okay.
They were able to have their family go up there
Mm-hmm.
and stay off base. And that's where I met quite a few nice guys. Like I say, all veterans, and most of them were, there was only a couple coops, which there always is somewhere. And then I was going to save this till Ma got back, but one night I was in town with, I don't know, about 4 other guys, and we went to the Algonquin Hotel. And that's where I met your mother. And I had had a little to drink, and of course our guys did. And I looked across the room, and there was your mom. And she had in those days they wore like a kerchief on their neck, you know. Mm-hmm. And she was about the prettiest thing I ever seen. So we kind of eyeballed one another a little bit, you know. And then she got up to go, and she was with Lena
Perugini.
And they walked out, and I thought, for some reason, I gotta meet her. So I got up and followed her out, and they're trying to catch the boat, the ferry to Sioux, Ontario, which is right down the street. And here I end up running after her, and I get her name and number and all this stuff. Dumbest thing I ever did. So. Got her name, number, and all that. And we made a date. And I think I called you or something. No?
No, we made a date, a double date, remember?
Okay, then we went on the double date. And then history is history. And I'm going to let you finish it next time from here.
I want to hear it from your side.
From my side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I want to hear it
that
too.
was the worst damn thing. Oh, you want the truth now?
I want to hear it from your side, so.
Okay, in order to get up from Detroit to Kinross Air Force Base and then to Canada, there were no expressways. You had to drive back roads from Detroit all the way to the Straits of Mackinac. From the Straits of Mackinac, you caught a big ferry. I mean, it was a big, big boat, almost like ocean style. And that would take you across the Straits of Mackinac to St. Ignace. From St. Ignace, you drive 52 miles. I know these mileage because I figure I've been up there 179 times. So, once you get to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, you take another ferry across the St. Mary's River, and then you're finally to Sioux, Ontario, where your mother lived. Now, this whole trip would cost you, or it would, in time-wise, be probably 12 hours plus if you ran into snow or whatever. But in those days, don't forget, there were no speed limits either. If you could go 100, you did 100.
On dirt roads.
Well, these weren't dirt. They were mostly two-lane. And you'd go up there, you'd get to the Straits of Mackinac, and there'd be a lineup usually, because these boats weren't one right after another. You had 2 or 3 hour wait. Mm-hmm. Well, there'd be guys selling fish up and down, and this is before fast foods. There was no McDonald's, no nothing. So if you wanted something to eat, you bought dried fish or something, you know.
Right.
They might have had hot dogs or something. I don't remember.
How would you cook it? I mean, what would you do?
Well, it's already cooked.
Oh, okay.
It was smoked.
Okay.
And most of them were really good. And then you'd catch the big ferry, and there was about 3 to 4 decks. But down below, all the cars drove in. Probably held, let's say 150 maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Big boats. Then you get to the other side, say Ignace, and you drive off. And then you drive up to Kinross, which is about 15 miles from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And that was Kinross Air Base. Anyway, going back to the night I ran after your ma, damn, We dated and got along well, and it wasn't too long after that we got engaged.
Now, what time of year did you meet her?
What time?
Yeah. When did you meet her?
About 1901. What time? Year, you mean?
What was the day?
Oh, I don't remember that.
What month?
Oh, you got to remember the date, Daddy, that I met.
What was it?
November, Friday the 13th.
Oh, yes. Yeah, how could I forget that? See, you got me in trouble again. Yeah, November the 13th, and it's Friday. Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. Didn't they make a movie of that?
And what year?
1955.
3.
4.
Three.
3. 2. 1.
Was it 4?
No, 1953, because we got married in April of 54.
Yeah, and then we lived up there in an apartment off base. I was still in the Air Force for quite a while, through winter anyway.
Yeah, it was a year
I
and a
think
half.
I got discharged in March of 55
So you lived in Sioux, Michigan?
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
in a
Upstairs
home on
apartment.
the upstairs. Actually, it was a real nice place. Had a lot of room too, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
People were nice. Ma got a job in town.
Doing what?
Oh, I'm getting ahead of time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She was doing hairdressing
Okay.
when I met her, and she kept doing hairdressing till we moved to the Sioux, Michigan. And then
Until we
you,
got married, and then we moved to Sioux, Michigan.
yeah, and then you gave that up and went to McCowan's.
No, Cowan's department store.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
But and then from there,
What was the day that you were married? April
24th.
24th.
Ha ha ha. I'm out of it. Let's see. Then we. Did you want to put some input in this now, or?
No,
No,
you go right
no,
ahead,
I want to
Daddy.
hear your
This is-
side of it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I want to
okay.
hear your side of it too.
Well, I need a medal. Anyway.
Well,
Okay. I stayed working on the base till my enlistment was over.
what were you doing on the base?
Just mechanicing anything they had. Anything from, like I say, quacks, ducks, diesels, semis, school buses, snow plows, anything like that. Don't forget they didn't have my airplane there. That was all actually luck and adventure on my side, as I see it now.
What do you mean?
Well, if I'd have stayed in what I was supposed to be trained for, I'd have ended up in Korea
Mm-hmm.
and probably dead
Mm-hmm.
in a truck or something. But going to the 79th Air Rescue gave me a chance to fly, and I was lucky. So, yeah, I ended up in the motor pool in Sioux, Michigan. Most of them were great guys. I took up baseball pitching. Well, I did that when I was on Guam. But sometimes, like I say, we got bored. So I started fastball, softball pitching. And I almost made the Air Force team, but not quite. Too many good guys over there. Besides, I'd only start learning how to pitch for 6 months. But once I got to Sioux, Michigan, we got a softball team together, and I pitched softball for the motor pool. And I met Murray and a whole bunch of really nice guys. And served out my enlistment up there.
So, okay. So what happened when you were done with your enlistment?
We come back to Detroit. Brought Ma along, because she's been good. We come back to Detroit and stayed at my mother and dad's for about, 6 months?
About 4.
I know it wasn't too long.
No, it was just long enough for us to find a house.
Well, I went back to Dodge Truck, the one where we built the trucks and put them in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And I got everybody mad over there at me.
Why?
Well, I had worked there a month or two, but needless to me, I went back there, and all that was seniority for 4 years. So I took over their jobs. And I said, well, that don't sound fair. They say, hey, you're a veteran. You deserve it. These guys were here.
Yeah.
So, well, okay. So, okay. So I stayed at Dodge Truck for a while. In the meantime, we went to the VA and we got a loan, and we bought a house in Westline. Brand new, ranch style, 3-bedroom. And we lived there for about 20 years, and then my son come along.
Well, what'd you do during that 20 years?
Oh, gee, we did everything, didn't we?
We had a good time.
We camped we snowmobiled, we camped, we went on vacations, spent quite a lot of time in Windsor with our relatives. And then I went to it's hot in there, Mom.
Okay, I'll turn that off.
I went to Executone. I got a job there, which made intercom systems, PA systems. Then they got in telephones. Well, by luck, I guess I've been lucky all my life. I never thought about it, but I ended up being the big honcho there, and had a company car. And I worked a lot, but I could do what I wanted to do.
What kind of hours did you put in?
Well, all kinds of hours, right, Mom?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I got home early, and sometimes I didn't get home till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, depending on if they were cutting over and things. I mean, cutting over means taking the telephone system from Michigan Bell and putting it on our system. That's what you call a cutover. And
Tell them why you sweat that one out. If the cutover didn't go right, then a whole floor of the hospital would have no communication.
well, yeah, I had to be there because if anything went wrong, they wanted somebody to shoot. But besides, I was pretty good at what I did anyway, and I felt better being there. And I was able to pick the men I wanted, smart enough, because it's pretty bad if an important floor in a hospital goes down, you're in trouble and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I did do a lot of work on hospitals, and we got property up north, and we went up there and we did a lot of camping. And then one day I was out on a job at Wyandotte Hospital, and I'd got to know all the contractors, and I was in one of the contractors' trailers. And they said, Leo, you got a phone call. I got a phone call. It must have been Executone, right?
Called you.
Because I can't remember. Anyway, they said, your wife is having a baby, and and everybody goes, "Ray!" You know, because I'm not exactly the youngest guy in the world there. And I took off and ran to the hospital, and I forget how that worked, Mom.
Okay, my dad called Executone, and he talked to Gladwin. Gladwin called you up at work and told you that I was going to have
Oh,
a
okay.
baby, remember?
See,
And then you went straight to the hospital, and I was in labor, and we were waiting until about 1:30, then I was gonna have the cesarean.
yeah, that's right. Now I can see it. And then you come along, and
What kind of hobbies did you guys have before that, though? I mean, you said snowmobiling and things like that. Where did you go? And
well, Ma and I both had done probably a lot of everything. We took up archery and we shot bow and arrow together in tournaments, and we shot skeet, trap, you know. Ma did too. In fact, one day we're out with Uncle Mel, who was a member of the Ford trap or skeet shooting team, and he was out there to show us how well he was doing. The only thing, I was as well as he was, but when we threw up one, I threw it up. Uncle Mel missed, and your Ma hit it. We couldn't talk to Uncle Mel all day.
that's awesome. Well, I want to go back to your first home for a minute. Okay, in Detroit. Well, actually, the apartment that you had in the Sioux. Do you remember how much you paid for it?
We rented.
Yep. Remember how much
For
you
a
paid a
month?
month?
Yeah, but I don't remember what we paid for it then. Was that $90?
It couldn't have been very much, because we couldn't afford very much. I think it was under 100, yeah.
A month
Yeah.
for it.
Something like 75, I would say.
Yeah. Now, the first house. Describe it to me.
The
Once-
first
once
house
you
we
left
owned?
your- Yeah. Well, there was only one house after you left your parents, right?
Right,
Okay.
right. It was a 3-bedroom, ranch style.
How many square feet was it?
Well, it was about the size of our breezeway. I think it was something like, we are on a 50-foot lot, and we had a drive there. I would say it was 42 feet long by about 35 feet wide. It had 3 bedrooms. One of them was yours. It had a full basement. It had a cute little kitchen. I put knotty pine in it, which your mom never liked.
Oh no, I liked the knotty pine. I didn't like it when you tore down the wall.
Anyway,
How was it decorated?
we had carpeting in all the rooms. Not at the beginning, but eventually we did.
We had hardwood floors.
They had hardwood floors. That was a trick too. Well, we couldn't afford carpeting, but at that time we really didn't want it. But I buffed those floors about every week at least. And I fell more than, well, maybe your ma fell more than me. But the floors were so shiny, this type of thing.
And you lived there for how long?
Oh, what, 22
years.
years.
And you had the garage built. It was a beautiful garage.
Now, where did you get all the furnishings from?
Well,
Here.
when we moved in, we didn't have any.
So what'd you do?
I think the first night we didn't have a bed either. I think we had a mattress.
We bought that bedroom outfit when we were still at your mom and dad's.
Did we?
Had them delivered. Yeah.
See, Monos members. Anyway, I remember carrying stuff on my back. My mom was balancing it, and I had a chest of drawers on my back, and I slipped and fell on my knee.
Oh boy.
See the point that's come to?
Yeah.
I know I cracked that, and it's bothered me ever since.
Did you
And-
go to the doctor afterwards?
No. I didn't do doctors.
How much did you pay for that house?
12,300. The car I just got cost twice that.
Yeah. What, was there a particular room you liked better in that house than?
Well, I guess I didn't finish. We had a full basement,
Oh, okay.
and that was all decorated.
I love that basement.
We had a pool table. I paneled it. We had a little fireplace down there, gas furnace, and I tiled the floor. And it was pretty nice, really. You should know. You played down there.
So, was there any room that you liked better than any other? The basement, or, I mean, what?
No, not really.
We were always in the front room.
Any particular pieces of furniture that have a lot of memories to them, or?
No, we haven't got anything that we had then.
The rocking chair,
Oh,
the bedroom.
Oh, wait a minute, our bedroom outfit. I guess that would be my favorite, and always has been. We couldn't afford it, but we went out and bought a excellent piece of furniture for the
That's-
bedroom.
That was the second bedroom outfit. The first bedroom outfit was our white bedroom outfit, which is now in the guest room, and we had bought the other.
Yeah,
new one.
yeah, okay.
So, what were the neighbors like?
We had the Torminas on one side, and we had the Amagers on the other. That's like having the mafia over here, and the Germans on the other side. Actually, the Torminas were wonderful people. It's just too many of them. And Amagers were fine most of the time, except they got a little uppity sometimes, but they were fine too. I guess because of my work, I would go from inspecting jobs in Detroit to make sure the guys were doing what they were supposed to also, that I got burned out. And when vacation time come, the Boudreaux would take off to Florida for 2-3 weeks, and I had to do everything in Detroit. And then after getting the property up north, I thought, hey, there's a better way here. So, what was the question?
Just about the neighbors. Just curious what they were like. And
Oh, I was trying to, the neighbors were great, all of them, across the street and all over. The only reason I wanted to move, though, was to get by myself
yeah. But what
and
was
get
this?
you out of the city.
Well, what was wrong with the city?
There were too many cases of dope coming in
Right.
and just bad stuff going on.
So, but most of the 20 years it wasn't like that.
Oh no. Most of it was fine. Oh, I forgot all about the motorcycles too.
Yeah.
Ma was my co-pilot all the time. I bought a small Honda, a Benelli, a bigger one, 125. I bought a 350 Honda, and I ended up with a Moto Guzzi. And I had all those bikes in that house.
You also had a Triumph?
Hmm?
You also had a Triumph?
But that was out here. So Any more questions about that first house?
Oh, you've got to tell them about work. You remember the time that you and Wayne went into the...
Oh, well, I have a million of those stories.
Yeah, well, tell him. He wants to hear those.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll make it fast because
You don't
Anyway.
need to make it.
Wayne was my sidekick. Like I say, I ended up being the manager, but he was always number 2. Sorry, Wayne. Anyway, one day we got a call. This is when we worked in the field. We got a call in down close to downtown Detroit. It was an old monastery on the Grand Boulevard. Very old building. Well, they wanted an intercom on each floor and all this type of thing. Now, in order to get the wire into the general office, we had to go through a crawl space. Well, come find out the story of this. It was an old monastery, and the basement was full of dead nuns in caskets, and it was pretty spooky. So Wayne and I decided, well, to get up to the office, we're going to have to go through the crypt and then go into this crawl space and then drill up, and we'd be home. We were taking wire from all over the building, coming underneath, coming up into the office. And we're just starting to crawl along. It's like walking in a basement, and then the crawl space is maybe 30 inches high.
No lights.
And no, there was no light, no electricity. So we're crawling in there. We get in there about, I don't know, maybe 20 feet. And we look up, and I take my flashlight, and I'm looking around. I put it down. I see a light over there. And Wayne is a little ahead of me. He says, "Oh my God!" I said, "What?" He says, "Look it." And here, there's a flashlight. And it's a black guy shining a light looking up. And all you can see is his black features. It was Bell Telephone coming from the other direction.
That's funny.
And Dad said Wayne and he weren't the only ones scared. They scared the wee jeepers out of that colored guy, you know, because he didn't expect anybody down there either.
I still don't know why we didn't meet. Usually we go the same route, but
Yeah.
he didn't.
Oh, tell him about the time you were on the ladder in that gas station.
Let him ask. This
Well-
is running along.
Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. I want to ask you a few questions about some other things. So I want to go back a little bit and then kind of structure it. Okay, so I want to know what circumstances did you meet your in-laws?
How did I meet him?
Yeah.
Well, I met him because I went over on the first date to pick up Ma, and they were there.
And what kind of experience was that?
Well, all these years we've got a little Indian blood in us, as you know. And come to find out, Indians up there aren't very well accepted. And everything was fine till they found out that I had some Indian blood. And, well, they didn't really change either. They were nice to me and all that stuff. But like Ma's mother said one time, well, if you get married, you're going to have papooses.
How old were you then?
At the time I met him, I had to be about 23.
Now, what attracted you to Mom?
Because she was cute.
Any personality traits in particular, or?
Well, when I first saw her, I thought she was cute, and then after I got to know her, I thought, oh, jeez. No, it's just your Ma. I liked her, and the way. Well, we did everything together. I guess that was the big thing. She was always there, you know.
Yeah. Now, how did you propose?
Maybe I never did. No, no, I did. I guess I did. I proposed, I think, in the front room of her mom and dad's.
Oh, in front of them?
No, not in front of them.
Okay.
But afterward, I had to ask for her father's permission and this type of stuff. And that all went well. I gotta say, they were good people.
Now, how did your parents react when you told them?
Ma was a little upset. Why, I don't know. Not because she was an Italian or anything, but she thought I should give myself more time after being back from the war, more or less, and am I sure? And in a way, I guess she was right. I was getting married probably 6 months or so after I got back. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean that. No, it's just funny that, I just heard you say that, and for every month that you took to get to know Ma, I took a year to get to know Heather almost. Anyway,
Oh, I see.
I just saw the correlation. Anyway, what do you remember most about while you were dating Mom for that few months?
What I remember most, I guess, is, well, she wasn't a party girl or anything like that. Everything we did was family.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Oh, we had our drinks and things like that, but it was all home with a grandpa and grandma. We really didn't go out much. If you knew the Sioux back then, there were 2 places to go.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, did you give her a ring at the time?
Now you're getting me.
Yeah,
What
well, I
do-
had to structure it a little.
What
Yeah,
I
I got
do
it.
for a ring, I forget.
Well, you gave me a ring in, we were unofficially engaged by December, okay,
Okay.
because he proposed in November, 3 dates after we met,
Yeah.
he proposed. By Christmas, we were officially
Yeah.
engaged, and he didn't give me a ring until February. And then we were married in April.
Well, anyway.
So where were you married at?
What's the name of that church?
I've forgotten.
Presbyterian?
It was a Presbyterian church, but I've forgotten the name.
It was right in the Sioux. It wasn't a church we went to, but Ma was Catholic. I didn't go to church much. And I don't know why we ever really, because of my mom and dad.
Yeah, you said you wanted to be married in the Presbyterian church.
Oh,
I thought they were
You
German
wouldn't get
Lutheran.
married in the Catholic.
huh?
I thought they were German Lutheran.
Later.
Later in life.
Oh, okay. They were Presbyterian at
Yeah.
that time.
But in that part of it, I never went to church much, I'll admit that. I didn't really know much about that. Different churches and things.
Where was the church?
In the Sioux,
Where in the Sioux?
Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Just about in the middle of town, isn't it? Not too far from the liquor store.
The liquor store. All right.
Hey, it isn't really.
What did you wear?
I wore a blue suit. Did I wear blue suedes?
Yep.
Ma, of course, wore all white.
Your shoulder's bothering you.
Oh, what a pain. Go ahead.
Who was at your wedding?
Who was at the wedding? Oh, geez. Of course, all Carmel's relatives, aunts and uncles and grandpas, and then from my side, the Canadians from Windsor come up, my aunt, two aunts, and let's see, May and Bill, and my mom and dad, Uncle Milt, Claudia, and that was about it.
Yeah, Beverly didn't come because she stayed home to take care of the boys.
So it was a smaller wedding?
No, there was about
Well, it was a good sized wedding.
Yeah.
We had the reception in her dad's house,
Okay.
in the basement, but the house is huge too, as far as houses go.
Yeah. What do you remember most about the ceremony?
The ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember much, do you? No, not that much, except she looked awful pretty.
Do you remember where you went that evening? Did you go
Yeah.
anywhere?
Yeah, we went to a motel in town, set up by her uncle, who owned the Great Northern Motel, which was next door to her dad's. He got us a room there, in other words.
So did you go on a honeymoon?
The next morning we went to her mom and dad's. We never did go on a honeymoon, did we? You might say this cruise is going to be a honeymoon. Well, I've been a little late for everything.
Any particular wedding presents that you remember?
No, you?
Oh, I know a few, but I'll tell them at my time.
Oh,
This is
okay.
your story.
Yeah, okay.
So what was the first thing that you bought for your home? It was the set there, the bedroom set? Is that
There's
it?
a white bedroom outfit.
White bedroom set. Yeah. Bought that in Detroit on Illinois.
What surprised you most about your or the in-laws after you were married?
There were no surprises, really, that I can remember, right?
What was the first argument you two had after the wedding?
You know, especially in those days, we never argued, did we?
Well,
We
actually, we
both got along. Well, I'm not saying we argued now much, but in those days we never did. So, gotta step by that one.
What friends have you seen the most as a couple?
I don't know who that'd be.
Well, in those days it was May and Bill over in Windsor, and then Andy and Margaret, and the
Yeah.
others, and then that was about it as far as a lot of friends. you
Yeah.
know, I mean, to see.
I think May and Bill would be pretty high on the
Mhm.
list, really.
Okay. Now, what has Mom done to make you proud?
What has she done to make me proud?
Yep.
Well, I guess because she's a toughie. Now, no matter what I want her to do, she was there. Snowmobiling, shooting, motorcycle, camping. She did all those things. I didn't have to go out by myself or nothing. She wouldn't let me.
What's your favorite thing about your in-laws?
Favorite thing about the in-laws? Oh, they taught me a lot. They taught me to, if you're having a family or son or daughter, to give to them before it's too late. In other words, don't wait till you die and then give them whatever. Give it to them ahead of time, and so you can see they're happy.
What was the first trip the two of you took?
Had to be camping. Oh, probably Maine.
That wasn't the first trip.
Well, no, that wasn't. South Dakota would be the first big trip
Yeah.
to South Dakota, yeah. Camping.
Right.
In homemade camper.
Homemade camper.
Homemade camper.
Tell me about that.
Okay, at work, I was working out of this Chevy van. I think it was a 62. Anyway, we wanted to go camping, and so we took it out and we threw in a couple cushions, and that was about the extent of it, really. And we went and sat by the campfire and said, "This is neat." But then, as time went by, we thought, well, what if we had this? What if we had that? So it ended up where I made a bed in the back, maybe probably a 3/4 bed, enough for 2 people anyway. Then I made a sink, put a place to put a stove. I put carpeting in it. Like I say, a sink, and I put a little pump on it. Now this was before they actually had that kind of stuff, especially in a van. And then we got real fancy, and this is where Ma come in. Like I said, she was always there. We put an extended room on the side in canvas, and it had a floor, no snakes in it. It was all buttoned, all zipped. It had screen all the way around. It had flaps to come down in case of a storm. And it was all contained on the roof in a roll. And you roll it off, and
You made that.
Ma made that. She ran to Kmart's every 15 minutes to find out how they made the tents. Because that's what she was making.
So, this was 1962 and you got married in 54. That's the first time you took a trip together?
Well, probably, really, huh?
Yeah, we might have gone around Michigan with a camper.
Oh,
No, we didn't have a camper at that time. No.
no.
That was about the first. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we went on vacation for, well, I mean, extended thing.
No, we used to go up to the Sioux all the time because Mom and Dad wanted us there.
Yeah.
That's why we tell you, Jason, whenever you decide to do what you want to do, you do it.
What was the most adventurous thing that occurred while you were traveling?
Huh. Well, you mean, well, I guess that just says it. Adventurous thing. I guess it was when we went to South Dakota. No, they mean any trip though. I don't know. I think the best adventurous thing was going to South Dakota, and now in those days they would start off. There was this one drugstore in South Dakota, and it was called like Walmart or something.
I don't know.
Anyway, they put signs from Detroit
Mm-hmm.
every so many miles, all along the highways and everything, till you got to South Dakota, and you ended up in this one drugstore.
Okay.
And I forget the name of it. Anyway, I guess that whole trip was the most adventurous. When we got to South Dakota, the Badlands were like driving off the road into Mars or something. Really different. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was. It was beautiful. That to me is the best memory I have. Is that vacation there. I always wanted to go back.
Okay, so when you were traveling all together, not just that first time, What was the funniest thing that ever happened on one of these trips?
Well, it was kind of funny, but a little scary.
Okay.
Your ma loves mines,
Okay.
and we had this old van. In fact, I even had a boat on the top, and then the rolled up tent on the side, and I might have had a motorcycle on the back.
Yeah, you did. You had that little Honda.
And Ma loved mines, and I always wanted to please her, although I might have cussed a little because I've got a bit of claustrophobia. But I was doing it anyway. Well, we come upon this mine, says, mine ahead. No, Ma's going, ooh, ooh, ooh. So I turn, and we start going down, and it was so steep going down, it was no blacktop. This is gravel. The Chevy didn't have good brakes anyway. In those days, they just didn't make good brakes. I've got my full weight on the brake pedal, and she's going.
Because there weren't power brakes either.
No power brakes. And we're halfway skidding and bouncing, and I thought, oh my God! And this thing is top heavy, you know. Anyway, come to find out, we thought we were on level ground, but it would have been like being on a mountain and then going down. Because when we got all the way down, it was like another world down here with parking lots. Anyway, that was after we thought about it and talked about it. It was one of the funniest things, because I got my head out the window and I'm standing on the brakes and we're bouncing all the way down.
And cussing me out all the way down. That was funny. That was really funny.
You ever get lost while traveling?
Did I what?
Ever get lost?
Oh, yeah. It's funny, I just thought of this. Funny you should ask that. Well, we got lost one time, and I think it was in the Porcupine Mountains up in upper Michigan. And all of a sudden, I'm pulling a trailer. I'm going up on this ridge. I run out of road. So, well, I'm lost. I keep going, the road gets narrower and narrower, and there's a steep, very 100-foot drop off in all directions here. Oh, geez, what do I do now? So I stop it, and I can't turn around. Ain't no way. And you can't back up a trailer for, I don't know, a quarter of a mile, maybe? So I unhook the trailer, and we move it by hand, and we only got a little room to back it up and all that. And her and I moved that trailer. Can you remember that? That was scary. Then I got the car and I worked my way around to the other end, and we hooked it back up. Whew.
Now, what year was this?
Oh. It had to be early. Well, we were driving, I was pulling the trailer, and we got the trailer, that a Lark. We have the garage, because I put the Lark in the trailer. So what year, Ma?
Must have been 63.
I think mid-60s.
Did you ever need a good Samaritan on a trip? And did you find one?
Did we ever find a good Samaritan?
Did you ever need one?
Need one.
Yeah. Were you ever in a situation where somebody helped you out of a jam that you just met or something like that while traveling?
Can't think of it. Can you?
Any health problems while you were traveling?
No, we were lucky.
What's the most exotic or extraordinary trip you've ever taken?
Most exotic trip?
Uh-huh.
What's that cruise we made in 90 or '04?
The one in 3 months, eh?
Mm-hmm. The most exotic one, I guess, was Maine or South Dakota, but South Dakota, I guess.
Because it was what? What was so different about it?
Well, it's the longest time we ever went on vacation, and we saw the nicest stuff, and everything was great. No, in fact, we had no problems with the vehicles or nothing. Everything was good.
Any mementos from your travels that...
Yeah, we always picked up like ashtray type of things,
Yeah, nothing particular.
and nothing really particular.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
With the-
General who?
Yeah, I kinda like to have him give his input and read to hear things that he
You're
remembers.
doing just fine.
Okay. Did you make any friends while you were traveling?
Did what?
Did you make any friends while you were traveling?
No, not really. We were always by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's the way we liked it.
Did you ever,
Although all the campers were your friends.
Right.
It was like being with family,
Right.
almost.
You ever go to any foreign countries?
Yeah, over there to Canada. About as foreign as you can get. No, we'd never have. That's what's going to be exciting about this cruise.
What's the best hotel you ever stayed in?
Best hotel?
Mm-hmm.
Just me?
Either. Anybody.
Gee, I don't know, son. I haven't stood in that many. I really don't know how to answer that.
What's the best restaurant you've eaten in while you've traveled?
I guess we're duds, because we did our own cooking, and you know.
What's the most spectacular sight you've seen while traveling?
I would say it was the trip to Maine when it was storming, and we saw probably 25-foot waves breaking and coming up on the beach, and coming up so far it was coming up to the houses. That type of thing.
So, okay, now we're going to jump back to jobs a little bit. When you were at Ford's, remember how much you got paid?
Whoa. Seems $1.30 in that area or something.
An hour?
Yeah.
And how about when you first started at Executone?
Oh, Executone, I had to be $6 an hour, something like that.
What was your first boss like?
My first boss,
Yeah.
no matter where.
Yeah.
First boss, that would be around Gorman's. Oh, nice guys. That was, they were brothers. One was a redhead, one was a blonde. Super nice guy.
So, that was Gorman's when you were how old?
I was 16. 15, probably more like 15. I'd been working since I was 13, sort of.
Okay, now we're gonna jump to Executone. What was the first? Which you started? What? When did you start Executone? How old were you? Because that was your main job, right, for a lot of years.
Yeah, how old was I?
Yeah.
We're in Westland. Wait a minute now. I was 42 when you come along. So, and that was about in the middle. I had to be around 32, in that area.
What were you doing just prior to Executone then?
I worked at Burroughs.
Okay, and there you were. Well, what? All right. When did you start at Burroughs then? Let's.
Okay, we bought a Corvair, and that was a 61 in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started at Burroughs probably 2 years before that. Uncle Mel got me in. I would say started Burroughs in about 58. I think I was there for 4 years.
So how old were you?
Probably 32 in that area.
Wow. See, 19. What you were born? What year?
30.
30. So 58. So you were 28. So now, what did you?
Yeah.
What were you doing at Burroughs?
I was another 90-day wonder. I've been a 90-day wonder all my life.
Have you?
Yeah. Got in there as a handyman. Now, Burroughs is a very nice place to work. There are probably 60% women, and they're not like, I shouldn't say factory people. They're kind of in between office and factory people. Anyway, I was a handyman. I did whatever the foreman wanted me to do. Then I got a upgrade, and I went into Department 118, and they were coming out with a new product. One was a component, and one was a accumulator. And I got to choose the component.
What's the difference?
The accumulator took all the